Now we know that original sin, I think of it not as much of a negative virus passed on to humanity, but as a privation of the good that we were created for. So all the interior faculties that are distorted in us were perfectly ordered in Adam and Eve before the fall. It was after the fall that this took place. And so she was preserved from that. Why? Because Jesus, who was like us in all ways except sin, had to receive a perfectly sinless human nature from her. Canon law talks about the vessel. She became the vessel, the instrument of Christ, of bringing the incarnation into the world. So what is the effect of sin? According to the book of Romans, it says that sin entered into the world, and through sin, death. So sin and the corruption of bodily death. Her sinlessness, if she had to receive a perfectly sinless nature, and this is Blessed Duns Scotus, theologian, medieval theologian, that she was preserved by the merits of Christ, because God is outside of time. He doesn't have a wristwatch. In God's time, it's all time present. It's kairos. We have chronos. We used to call these chronometers, right? Linear time. God, all time is present to God. The merits of Calvary applied to his mother at the moment of her conception. This is not the Immaculate Reception, right? When the Steelers beat Boston College beat Miami, and the Steelers beat the Raiders. That's right. That was the Immaculate Reception. The Immaculate Conception. All right, let's get back to Catholicism here. She was preserved from the stain of original sin in the conception of her mother, in the womb of her mother, Anne. Right? And so, if the effect of sin and death is the resultant of the fall, she was preserved from sin, and therefore she is immaculate. Sine maculae, without a mark, without the stain. And if she could not, the second effect of the fall is that she could not receive the corruption of bodily death. What happens? She is now assumed bodily into heaven at the end of her life. The Catechism goes on to say in 971 that the Church's devotion to the Blessed Virgin is intrinsic to Christian worship. It's inseparable from Christian worship. So the effect of the fall, briefly, then I'm going to get into the Gospel of Luke. The effect of the fall of Adam, our first parents, the loss of sanctifying grace. We were in a state, Adam and Eve were in a state of grace, and through that sin they lost the effect. They lost that, which was called original justice, or the life of God in the soul. And also the preternatural gifts, the natural gifts that were before the fall, of integrity, which means freedom from disordered desire, or a right ordering of the faculties. So the word integer means one. So you have a oneness of your faculty. You have a balance and a oneness of your faculties. The loss of original innocence, freedom from concupiscence, which is a word that means a lustful desire for, right? And then original immortality, freedom from death, okay? This is what the Catechism says. Her splendor of an entirely unique holiness by which she is enriched from her first instant of her conception comes wholly from Christ. She is redeemed in a more exalted fashion by reason of the merits of her Son. The Father blessed Mary more than any other created person in Christ with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places, and chose her in Christ before the foundation of the world to be holy and blameless before him in love. Holy and blameless. So these four wounds of the fall, the loss of grace, the loss of knowledge, which now means ignorance, disordering of the passions, and sickness and mortality, she was preserved. Now we don't go beyond the created nature. She's not divine, but her nature is different than ours. And the devil knows it. He cannot beat her. She is sine maculae. The devil can't beat you either. Was it Padre Pio that used to tell stories of physically fighting with the devil, right? And I think it was St. Francis that woke up, the devil woke him up in the middle of the night, or was it Padre Pio? I don't remember. And Francis rolled over and says, "Oh, it's just you." That's a guy with no buttons. He's a holy man. He is dead. The old person is no longer alive. Mary was born with that gift. There is no buttons. Perfectly ordered, sinless nature. So in the ministry, it's like a under a microscope, when you used to get the microscope and get the sun, and you would you see little boys, you try to see if they can light the ant on fire, The intensity of being that close to evil is very purifying, and any small little sin is exposed, right? And so, we try to train ourselves and say, no, we don't talk about affliction, because the more you start talking about, I'm under attack, right? You're giving credit to the devil. Whenever you think I'm under attack, no, you're under formation. Because if the demon is getting to you, there's something in you that is disordered. And it's a great grace. It's a great grace to discover. A very painful prayer is to ask Our Lady. I always go to her, right? Ask Our Lady, reveal to me, Our Lady of Sorrows, reveal to me that any vices, any bad habits, anything that is keeping me from deeper union with your Son. These are the prayers that she loves to answer. Yeah, okay, I get pretty good hookups on parking spaces. I will admit that. My family makes fun of me. Stop doing that. I'm like, hey, we're in the front. We got a front row parking spot. She takes care of us. It's okay. But those prayers are important. John Paul says she comes to us in the wide variety of our human needs. So ask her those things, small little things, but the big ones. Help me to live closer to Jesus. Remove. Another good habit is to pray the litany to Our Lady of Sorrows. This is something Father Ripperger recommends, and it's very, very effective. Praying a novena to Our Lady of Sorrows, because sometimes you're militating against a certain vice or something that you see is happening in your family, critical spirit, a spirit of anger, some sexual spirits that you're really fighting with, this sexual impurity or whatever. And so you're over there doing battle. And it's like that little game in the mall, back when we used to be able to go to the mall. The game in the mall was called a whack-a-mole. And you start whacking this little thing, and the mole comes up and you hit it, and then it goes over here and you hit it. And the demon just runs you back and forth between your vices. But there's some device underneath there that's pushing those things up. And you're battling up here, but the defect is way lower. How many times we go to the doctor, and we think it's this, but that's only a symptom of something larger. And so go to Our Lady of Sorrows. Why Our Lady of Sorrows? Why did Father Ripperger name his order after Our Lady of Sorrows? Partly because the prophecy of Simeon that the sword would pierce your heart. So the union of the two hearts of Jesus and Mary is very important. Simeon says to Mary, and you yourself, a heart were pierced, and the souls of many will be revealed. So we're asking for that grace of the heart who was co-pierced with Christ on the cross, the image of 7 swords piercing her heart, right? Asking her for that grace, and help us to reveal, is there any spirits, any generational sins, any generational spirits that's lingering in my family that I can help, that's really blocking this family from truly living our Catholic faith. And so that's a great devotion. And why? Because if her heart is so pure, completely sinless. Mediatrix of all graces. Mediatrix of all graces. That's in the doctrine of the Church.